Welcome to the second episode of the Economy and State podcast. I'm your host, Benjamin Sievers.
And I'm your other host, Sam Braidhoover.
Today we're going to be discussing a few different topics. First, we're going to start off with
Justin Amash.
There's been some grumbling within the Libertarian Party itself, and I've heard some news from a Libertarian Party official about how he might be considering a run for the Libertarian nomination. Now, this isn't set in stone yet. He might just be considering it, or he might not be at all. But it's a great possibility that he is, and if he does, it could disrupt the entire race.
Yeah, I mean, clearly he might not have an amazing chance. I would make the argument he doesn't, but he could very well change the entire turnout.
Yeah, and I was looking at some early polls earlier, like straw polls before most of the contest started, before the votes, and the thing with the Libertarian Party is a lot of the popular figures like Rand Paul, Austin Peterson amongst the Libertarian Party, and Justin Amash, they score really high in these polls, comparable to people who are actually running and have announced that they're running. Amash has won, besides Rand Paul and Austin Peterson, he's basically won all those straw polls that have included him. So if he were to enter this race, it could possibly unseat Lincoln Chafee as a possible front-runner for the nomination. Lincoln Chafee, if you don't know who that is he's a former governor, and he's been getting support amongst the Libertarian Party and the higher-ups within the party itself. And even if he's not a perfect libertarian, he's not he's not on the level of Justin Amash or others. But it's just interesting to see how they're putting their support behind this more popular candidate.
Right. So the question becomes really, what can we really expect to see if Justin Amash does? Let's just assume he gets the Libertarian nomination, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's way too much speculation to go into whether he would win the Libertarian nomination, but let's just get past that, right?
Yeah, if he were to get it, I think that we could possibly see the Libertarian Party winning more of the popular vote. But of course, look back at 2016. It was certainly a time where people were like, okay, I don't want Hillary, I don't want Trump. Hillary was probably less unpopular than Biden, I would say, and people wanted an out of that, and they went for Gary Johnson, and Gary Johnson himself was a good figure to lead the party during that time. He was former governor. He grew support for the Libertarian Party in presidential races, but I mean, current representative in the U.S. House, I mean, that could be huge.
I mean, you might think that, but actually, if you look at data and stuff, it's actually the hardest position to run for president as, other than, I guess, mayor. I didn't know that was even an option before this race. Is U.S. Congressman or Congresswoman, I guess, Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's actually the hardest in terms of fundraising. It's the hardest in terms of name recognition. Just because, at least as a senator, you're able to do I almost said international. I guess, intercontinental events. Like Ted Cruz went to Iowa, 4 years before 2016, just giving speeches at various events, right?
Yeah.
But Congress people don't have that advantage. And now, of course, you could say Justin Amash has advantage in that he's not the average congressman.
Yeah.
Obviously, you and I have heard of him.
Yeah.
I can't name half of the U.S. Congress, but I can name him. Right?
Yeah.
But that is something. I mean, it's more of a disadvantage to be in the U.S. Congress.
You also have to take in consideration that the Libertarian Party, it as a whole, is not that very organized. It's not really centralized. I mean, for the Republican Party or Democratic Party, sure, U.S. Congressman might be a hard position to run as.
I'll tell you what it's going to end up as. If Justin Amash, assuming he wins the Libertarian nomination, the game for him is not going to be winning Libertarian votes. It's going to be winning other votes. So
yes, and that's another thing I thought about touching on before in this episode. What the problem is with Justin Amash is I can't see him winning over a lot of Republicans. Mainly because he left the Republican Party. He's been attacking Trump on a lot of issues with impeachment.
You would think. I don't know if he could take enough votes.
Yeah,
But
he might win some who are disenfranchised.
Well, I mean, if you look at just polling and stuff, I mean, President Trump is not very popular, comparatively speaking. You know, like Barack Obama was much more popular in the Democratic Party in 2012 than President Obama is, or than President Trump is in the current Republican Party. Now, I mean, of course, he will win the Republican nomination. You know, it's not like you know, but you know, I mean, I would go as far as to say that if you look at the primaries right now, I mean, he's running unopposed in most primary states, and I mean, yeah, a lot of people write in, but I mean, the guy's winning around 95%, which is not as much as, I mean, that means 5% of voters don't like him enough to write in another candidate. It's not even on the ballot. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we always see like a 1 to 2%, you know, like not, you know, but this is crazy. This is unprecedented, actually, and you know, and if that many people find him unlikable, I mean, you can only, I mean, there are members of Congress, members of our governors and stuff that don't support him already.
Like Mitt Romney, for instance.
My Lord and Savior. Yeah.
I mean, what could possibly happen in like a general election where it's between like Trump, Biden, and Amash? I mean, like, could Romney possibly put his support behind a third party? I mean, he doesn't have much to lose, would you say?
You know, if you look at Amash's policies, I do think that, I know he appeals to the libertarian crowd, but I think he is leaning more towards the Republican side.
I know what you mean by that. Like some of his positions on tariffs, like he has a mixed history on international trade, and same thing with crime and immigration.
He is socially very right.
Yes, he is.
In fact, I would say it's awkward that libertarians like him so much because he is so in favor of traditionalist things, but not just. I mean, he doesn't just view it that way. He believes that the government should intervene in that way, which in a way is kind of weird. But you know, he could possibly cause some issues in the libertarian crowd. Like there's obviously a huge difference between people who are libertarians for like political reasons, and there's difference between people who are like libertarian for more economically speaking. I know there's the Mises Caucus and the Radical Caucus within the Libertarian Party, and I don't know if the Radical Caucus is supporting Jacob Hornberger, but I know that who's a political scientist, but I do know the Mises Caucus is supporting Jacob Hornberger, and they're a loud voice within the party, and it could possibly cause some issues to elect someone just as Justin Amash, who has mixed history on trade and isn't that much of a libertarian when it comes down to it. I mean, the bottom line for any libertarian convention of for nominating is that they have to look into like who is the most electable, who's going to make the biggest dent in this. And I think in 2016 they actually went the right route with that.
Like I remember watching a debate, and like it's supposed to be called the party principle. That's the Libertarian Party. That's what they purport to be. But when Gary Johnson in the debate at this convention, he said, I think that there should be restrictions on who can drive a car, like have a driver's license.
Oh, right, and they booed him.
Everyone booed him, but he won the nomination.
Well, I mean, but people that go to conventions and like that,
there are obviously people on the stage who are more like libertarian than him, and I think that's clear with people like Austin Peterson. But I mean, like, when it comes down to it, it's about popularity, likability, electability, stuff like that. Not like who's going to be more of a libertarian.
Right.
So
I guess in conclusion with Justin Amash, I would say, do you think he's going to take more Republican or Democrat? I would say Republican.
Yeah. Although, I mean, I would say he would appeal to more of the Democrats when he did join their side in the impeachment, and he did testify. That's one thing, and he did get name recognition to the Democrats because of that. But I mean, probably wouldn't say by that much. I mean, people who probably don't like Biden might be incentivized to vote for Amash.
Are you familiar with 538?
Yes.
Yeah, I was reading some articles about on their website today, and people that Bernie Bros or whatever, or Bernieettes, feminine side, they really hate Joe Biden right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know that they're further left than Biden, but something tells me if someone like Justin Amash were to run as like a libertarian, independent type crowd. Yeah. It's not crazy to think they would just vote against Biden.
Well, you also have to take into consideration the Green Party. I mean, I know they don't.
Do I have to take them into consideration?
I know they're not like super powerful. I know, like, it's, third parties. It's not saying much. But I mean, Libertarian Party is probably more influential than the Green Party, and not by a long shot. But I mean, when it comes down to it, I mean, would a progressive really vote for a Libertarian if they could choose a Green Party candidate when they know that those candidates won't win?
Do we know anything about a Green Party candidate right now?
I forget his name, to be honest.
So it's a guy. You know who it is?
Yes, I hope he's the guy. So I don't want to get fired for that. But
Right.
all right. Let's move on.
Right. So tomorrow we have the Democratic debate between, now it's only two candidates.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, but no crowd.
Yeah, that's gonna be pretty interesting. I mean, like, with Bernie, he gets most of, like, the cheers, the claps, and the, like, approval.
Right. I mean, I would argue the guy's a demagogue, but but that's the only benefit demagogues have.
That point aside, but I mean, when tomorrow there's not going to be a sound.
But what it's really going to come to, people are going to decide who wins based off of which one is more aggressive.
Yeah.
And so, if you were to make any prediction, who do you think is more aggressive? Who do you think is going to take attacks without dealing it back, and who do you think is going to be dealing it the most?
I mean, Biden in recent debates has showed that type of character, but Bernie's an explosive figure. So, I mean, I could see both doing it. I don't know, but I think Biden's more likely.
I can tell you what I hope, which is that every time Bernie Sanders has gotten attacked for, like, his crazy policies, right?
Yeah.
Every time he's ever gotten attacked about, like, whether or not they're actually doable, right?
Yeah.
He just gets away with it by just, spewing out some demagogue stuff and the crowd cheering, and then it's like, oh, it's over, because, as long as I
love him,
exactly. So what I'm really hoping is that since he can't use the crowd as just a way out this time, I'd really like to see Joe Biden, like, really plow into him about, I mean, since he doesn't have, I mean, it's either going to end with, utter humiliation, or he might get really angry. I mean, I've never seen him end a speech without an applause to get rid of it.
You said angry? I mean, he always seems like he's angry.
Yeah, but I mean, especially angry.
Yeah, I mean, he could also, like, do what he kind of did with the Bloomberg situation, and, like, when he got booed for attacking Bloomberg, just, like, not attack him anymore. And he obviously changed his entire strategy during that debate, and I think he realized that quickly. So, I mean, we're getting, like...
But he changed the strategy because there was a crowd.
Yes, that is true. But I mean, at least he's shown to be a little bit dynamic in this. I mean, he can handle it. But I really don't think in the end it will work out for him.
If I were to I'm going to make my executive prediction right now, right? I'm going to say, I think Joe Biden took this stance, like, the first half of the entire campaign trail so far. I think he's going to take the high road. I don't think he's going to attack, if at all, right?
Yeah.
And because what he tried to do in the beginning, obviously Joe Biden was, like, the most serious candidate when everything first started, right? And because of that, he wouldn't attack anybody. He wouldn't even talk about other candidates' policies. He would only talk about his experience with Barack Obama and stuff like that. And now that he is doing so well in the primaries in this, at this stage, I really believe that he's going to take that high road again. Not attack Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
I think attacking honestly just gives more legitimacy to Bernie Sanders at this point. You have to, if you act like your opponent is not, like, a serious opposition, then they won't be. You know, I mean, it's the same idea as, like, why isn't Donald Trump doing a debate with Bill Weld?
Yeah, you're right. You're right with that. I mean, like, and at this point, I'm not even sure if Bernie's campaign is even salvageable. I mean. He is behind. They expected him to win in Super Tuesday, but I mean...
Well, I mean, what they say is campaigns end when the money ends, and he's still getting donations.
That is true. Okay, so I think that's enough with that topic. I mean, we'll cover it more later when the debate actually happens and we see what happens.
Yeah.
So
and we'll see how correct I was.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah. Let's talk about the coronavirus. With the state of the emergency announced yesterday. What are your initial thoughts on that?
My initial thoughts are that I think Trump should be really glad that coronavirus happened when it did.
Yes, because if it didn't, I mean, like what else could he what else could he blame the recession on?
There's a lot of there's a lot of theories regarding voting patterns, right? And one of the most credible voting patterns there is just evaluating the state of the economy and who is the current party in power. And those two things combined predict about 95% of every election, right? So that being said, having a recession right now would be the end of Donald Trump, right?
Yes.
So he would be very, he is extremely lucky that not only has the coronavirus occurred right now when the market was already going to flop, but now he's also appearing to get more of a bump in polls just because of his amazing,
he's doing things.
Yeah,
and
but he's actually, I think you and I can both agree that the market wouldn't have done this bad if it wasn't already in a bad state before the coronavirus.
Yeah,
but he's actually doing amazing with the response, and you know why he's doing it.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about response a little bit, less on the effect on politics, but I mean more just on the practical policy side. And there's a lot of moving variables in this, and we don't have to go too deep into it. But the main problem with this announcement and the declaration of state of emergency is the centralization of relief efforts in FEMA. I mean, people are so eager to run to centralized powers to fix issues before they even have faith in the natural state of the market and people.
Well, right. Fix it before. I mean, generally speaking, you don't get reelected if you do nothing.
Yeah, exactly. I understand that. I didn't expect him. I expected him to do everything he could after this.
Yeah.
But I mean, it just saddens me. There's nothing we could do about it. I mean, they're gonna do crazy political stuff either way, but it's just depressing that people support it.
I know.
Yeah, everyone, nobody is a libertarian during time of crisis.
I would love to see somebody write articles in the aftermath of this about how much the government has been putting down private companies in trying to produce any way of combating coronavirus, because it's happened already.
Yeah, because I know in the state of Washington there was a private company that wanted to do tests on people, and then the federal regulators actually threatened them with fines so they could stop them from doing that. But they ended up doing it anyway, just disobeying and saying, hey, we got to test these people. And I told someone about that recently, and they're just like, well, some of the tests fail. I'm like, well, if the federal government tests them, it's going to be the same rate of, it's going to be the same chance of the tests failing regardless. So I mean, might as well let the private companies do it.
Absolutely.
And it's just, if you're going to prevent private companies from doing it, don't complain when the private sector fails.
Exactly. And not only that, but I'm sure you would see an even bigger private sector response if the government didn't have such a monopoly on this in the first place,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and then there's the issue of aid and not aid, stimulus into the market. Afterwards, they dropped that 1.5 trillion. Then they lowered interest rates before that. I mean,
yeah.
There's the transportation stocks falling. I mean, what do you want to do? You want to subsidize those activities and allow them to get access to more resources, so it makes even more people travel. I mean, you want more people to get the virus.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I agree with you, and we know you and I have talked about this before, but I'm just gonna say this. Walmart needs to raise its prices.
Yes. Everyone flooded. I'll just let you explain it.
Yeah. Everyone. Ben and I went to our local Walmart the other day, and there was not a single stock of toilet paper in the entire thing.
But we went over to the cleaning supplies, and
it's all still there.
It's all stocked, fully stocked. So not only people were they want to clean themselves after they use the restroom. Oh, that's the big issue. Not killing germs.
Exactly. But what you see most of all are people like mothers and I guess fathers, but but complaining about how they're not getting access to baby supplies anymore because too many people are buying baby wipes because there's not enough toilet paper. And there's a simple answer to that. raise the prices of baby wipes.
Yeah, like if you do that, I mean, people aren't just gonna go buy all the toilet papers they possibly can.
Exactly.
You're gonna leave some more for other people. And if they really want them, they can buy everything still, but they just have to pay a higher price.
Of course, it's not amazing. It's not amazing that and a mother would have to pay $8 instead of $4 for baby wipes. But at the same time, it's not like the government is a magic button and you just get to press and be like, price ceiling $4.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? That's not going to work because now you're still not going to get your baby wipes because people are going to buy them all at $4.
Yeah. And what's so funny is it's not even a government price ceiling. It's Walmart.
I'm saying there's only two solutions to that. You either raise prices or have the government set a price ceiling. And so and at a price ceiling, you're still not getting it.
Yeah.
So raise prices or not get it.
Yeah. And this ties in what we were saying earlier about political libertarians and economic libertarians. I brought up the idea of arbitraging, like buying water bottles and buying toilet paper low and selling high after a virus comes to someone the other day, and they're like, "What the heck?" And they were part of the Liberty movement, and they're like, "Why would you do that? That's evil." I'm just like, it's moral. Like, it saves more for other people. It saves it. It takes it when a time of abundance, and then you're saving it and selling it during times of scarcity, like relative scarcity. But it makes sense. But I mean, political libertarians, they don't understand that, and that's okay. But I mean,
and you know what's funny? Actually, did you see recently that I think in the same speech that Trump gave about the coronavirus, he also spoke about how he's directing the Department of Energy to buy like huge stocks of oil, so that while it's cheap. So that they can, so when it gets inevitably more expensive, like we'll have it. It's like, so you understand the point, like you know economics when it comes to that, but it's
but you don't know economics when it comes to the debt, inflation, interest rates, and tariffs.
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of relating to this, one of my least favorite point of all the Democratic campaigns so far was watching one of the debates a few weeks, probably a month ago, maybe more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Amy Klobuchar, were you there? Were you watching that with me? Amy Klobuchar talked about her response to insulin shortages by creating a nationalized industry, the government basically nationalizing the production of insulin. And Ben, you know why there's an insulin shortage. You know why insulin is so expensive.
Well, I know part of it's because of the patent laws.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm getting to.
Yeah. Okay.
The only reason that insulin is so expensive is because the government is giving monopolies to companies to create insulin. I mean, it's an inelastic demand. People need it to survive. They're going to raise prices. They're the only ones creating it.
Yeah.
And now Amy Klobuchar specifically said that she wants to create a government opposition to that monopoly that the government created.
Yeah, it's funny. People people usually on the left, they recognize monopolies and they say, "Oh, monopolies are bad," but they call these things patents. But what they used to call patents back in when they first started out? They used to call them writ of monopolies.
Yeah.
So they're just trying to change the terminology in order to hide what they're really doing.
Yeah, I would say in the case of most monopolies, I mean, you can disagree if you want, but my opinion is, in the case of monopolies, 90% of the time, it's a government-created problem.
Yes.
And any response to that is just the government responding to a problem they already created in an inefficient way.
Yeah, and that's the working definition of monopoly too. I mean, a government writ of monopoly. That's what it is.
Right.
Full control over a resource or business.
I'm fairly certain. I don't know if you took that class with me, but
yes,
I'm fairly certain. Yeah. I'm fairly certain that the only way for there to be a monopoly, other than a state mandated one, is for every factor of production to be owned by one entity, and for there to not be any other factors of production in physical, and what that means is, if you want to evaluate insulin with that, is there a way to make insulin outside of the companies that make it right now? Of course,
yeah.
So obviously, it's a state-mandated monopoly.
Yeah, I think that's what you were saying. Say every relevant alternative is essentially doesn't exist, and all the resources to create the one thing you need isn't held by.
That's why the only example that I think I've ever heard of is when in the 50s there was a company that bought up every single known bauxite mine in the entire world.
Yeah.
I mean, even then, it wasn't really a problem because they didn't overcharge because, I mean, I guess they probably because in the end it wasn't a real monopoly because if someone really wanted bauxite, they could open another mine.
Yeah, and of course, like, if people don't need bauxite, I mean, like, they could go to other metals and all that. But
again, I mean, that's the only instance I can think of that has no government interference in it. And even then, it wasn't a bad situation.
Yeah, and even then, the markets, like, I shouldn't say gave, because the markets, but the market and profit and loss regulated it in such a way that they got the majority of bauxite mines, that they were the most efficient people to do it. Unless, like, there's some government intervention that we don't know of, but that's
it was international, so there wouldn't have been.
Well, yeah, but I mean, at the same time, there can be like international like lobbying, like different governments.
Perhaps.
Yeah, if it was a large company.
It wouldn't have been that early. United Nations was only created like 5 years before.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, like, I'm talking individual countries. Yeah, you know what I mean. But regardless, I mean, monopoly isn't necessarily a bad thing. But yeah.
Oh, it's never a bad thing. I mean, I would say that if in a completely free market, monopolies are almost never a bad thing.
Yeah. Well, we went really far into that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we started off at what did we start off at?
Justin Amash?
Coronavirus.
Oh, yeah.
Well, before we went on that tangent, we started at coronavirus and went to monopolies. I like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
all right. I think we covered all our bases.
Right? Yeah. So I think we're good.
All right. So thank you for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed our podcast. This is Ben.
Stay classy, San Diego.